Some moments don't end when they're over, they echo. Lucas Bowman's single step during Pope Francis' funeral didn't just break tradition. It opened something, a silence across the Vatican, a ripple through the world. And it had only just begun by nightfall. The world had seen it. News channels replayed the moment again and again. A Swiss guard leaving formation, walking toward the coffin. Kneeling, laying a letter on top. The act was simple, but the meaning, deep. Everyone wanted to know why he did it. What was in that letter? But Lucas didn't speak. He returned to duty, quiet, disciplined, just as before. Except something had changed. Inside the Vatican, things moved differently now. Guards whispered in the halls. Cardinals gave small nods when they passed him. Even tourists, days later, pointed at him from a distance. That's the one, they said. The guard who moved. But Lucas said nothing. Not because he was hiding, but because some things aren't meant for the world. Some things are between two people and God. Back in his room, Lucas kept a photo of his family, his younger brother, who had once been lost in a crowd many years ago, and had followed him into adulthood. And maybe that's why the crying boy at the Vatican had moved him so deeply. Maybe that's why Pope Francis had noticed him. And maybe that's why the Pope trusted him with the final letter. Father Ventresca visited Lucas the day after the funeral. He knocked softly, then entered the guard's small room. "I thought I'd find you here," the old priest said kindly. Lucas stood up quickly. "Father, you are brave," Ventresca said, walking slowly toward the bed. "I broke protocol." Lucas said quietly. "Yes," Ventresca smiled. "But you followed something greater." Lucas didn't answer. He looked at the folded blanket on his bed, then back at the priest. "The Holy Father," Lucas said, He trusted me." "He did," Ventresca replied. It reminded him of something he feared the church was forgetting. "What's that? Humanity?" There was a silence, not heavy but full, like a pause between heartbeats, he said. "To me once," the priest continued, "we cannot serve the people if we forget we are people too. That's why he wrote that letter to you. He saw in you what he hoped all men in uniform could be. Not just protectors, but guardians of the soul." Lucas sat back down. The weight of the moment was still with him. "I'm just a soldier," he said. "No," the priest said gently. "You are the reason people believe the church still has a heart." After the priest left, Lucas remained seated for a long time. Outside, bells rang across the Vatican. Tourists lined up again at the basilica. Life moved on, as it always did, but inside the barracks, something stayed behind. Later that night, Lucas walked the long hallway alone. His shift had ended. The marble floors echoed under his boots. At the end of the hallway, he saw a small box sitting on a bench. A note was attached. Just 3 words, "For the guard." He opened it. Inside was something simple. A rosary. Hand-carved. The beads were made of olive wood. The cross at the end had 1 word carved into it, move. No signature, no explanation, but Lucas understood somebody had watched. Somebody had believed. And now, they were passing something on. The next day, Lucas stood guard again. Same place, same posture, same uniform. But this time, people didn't pass him without looking. Children waved. Old women nodded in respect. A group of young seminarians stopped and crossed. Themselves, they didn't know his name, but they knew what he had done, and that was enough. Inside his uniform, just above his heart, Lucas kept a second letter now, not the one from the Pope. Stayed with the coffin, but a copy he had written himself. Reminder, a message, a guide. Because some steps can never be undone, and some steps lead others forward. Sometimes one man's silence speaks louder than 1,000 speeches. Lucas Bowman never gave interviews. He never stood before cameras. He never explained what the letter said or why he stepped forward that day. But still, the world remembered him, not because he was loud, but because he was true. Weeks passed after the funeral of Pope Francis. Rome returned to its normal rhythm. Tourists came and went. Cardinals returned to their chambers. Bells rang. The prayers continued, and The city moved on. But inside the hearts of many, something had shifted. People didn't forget the Pope's last words. Not the ones spoken from the pulpit, but the ones seen through Lucas's action. His simple step, his silent kneel, his quiet honor. Inside Vatican City, something else began to change too. It started small. A few younger guards stood a little straighter during their shifts. It's not just out of duty, but pride. A few priests changed their homilies, speaking more about kindness than fear, more about love than punishment. One cardinal, known for his stiff manner, was seen placing his own letter on the grave of an old friend, something said he had never done before. They all said the same thing. It was the guard, the one who moved. Lucas continued his duties. He cleaned his armor, he polished his boots, trained new recruits with the same patience and detail as always. But there was a quiet difference in the way he did everything, like a man who had heard something deep hand, answered it. Then, one morning, something surprising happened. Lucas was called to the Apostolic Palace. It was not usual for guards to be called there, especially not alone. He was told to wear his full ceremonial uniform when he arrived. He was led into a quiet hall where several senior clergy stood waiting. They didn't speak much. One of them, a cardinal, simply handed Lucas a small wooden box. "For you," he said. Inside the box was a medal. Gold, simple, round, no diamonds, no bright ribbon, just one thing engraved on it. For courage without words. Lucas looked at it for a long time. He didn't smile, he didn't cry. He just nodded slowly with respect. That evening back in his room, Lucas placed the medal beside his father's old clock. Then he prayed. He didn't ask for anything. He simply said thank you for the life he'd lived, for the Pope who had seen him, for the chance to do something right, and for the moment that had reminded him. And the world that even in the most silent places, the heart can still speak. Years later, people still talked about that day. New guards were told the story during training. Tour guides whispered it to visitors in the square. Pilgrims came from far places and stood near the steps where Lucas had knelt. Some even copied his movement, bowing their heads silently for a few seconds, as if hoping to feel what he had felt. No one remembered what the cardinal said at the funeral, but everyone remembered what the guard did. And maybe, in the end, that's what Pope Francis had hoped for. Not a perfect ceremony, not golden speeches, but a quiet act of truth, a step forward, a kneel of love. The message that didn't need to be shouted to be heard. Lucas Bowman stayed in service for 2 more years. Then one day, without announcement, he left. No press, no farewell ceremony, just one final shift. He stood again near the square, watching the people come and go. And before stepping down for the last time, he looked up at the sky. The sun was rising, soft and golden, like the morning of the Pope's funeral. He touched his chest where the letter had once rested. Then he whispered, "Just once, I remember." And he walked away. Not as a soldier, but as the man who had moved when no one else dared.